In total, that means that the department produced approximately 3.5 million pages in compliance with the Act.
Literally millions of Jeffrey Epstein files have just been released. And these are new details. These are things about President Trump. These are things about Bill Gates. These are things about Bill Clinton. And these are things about Elon Musk. We are going to try to get to some of the highlights of some things that are happening right now and maybe give us details and a glimpse into Jeffrey Epstein's world.
The conversation surrounding the files linked to Jeffrey Epstein has once again surged into public focus, this time intersecting with political messaging, media scrutiny, and growing concerns about public safety. As archived records continue to circulate and online discussions intensify, Donald Trump has addressed broader issues of safety and security, adding a new dimension to an already complex narrative. What is unfolding is not a single story, but
announcing today that they are releasing more than 3 million pages of files in the Jeffrey Epstein probe. Now, this, of course, is pursuant to a Transparency Act that was passed by Congress. And we got to get into what we're seeing here. Now, to be clear, we're not going through 3 million pages, but we do have some highlights that we got to address. We got to put into context, too. I should also note that what is not being released and what we will probably never likely see, I should note that as well, there are things, according to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, that are allowed to be withheld under the law. These are files that contain, personally identifiable information of victims, victims' personal and medical files, any similar files, any depiction of child sexual abuse material, anything that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. Maybe that's a bit broad. And we may never actually know what any of this may be, but we got to take the government at its word. Anything that depicts or contains images of death, physical abuse, or injury, files covered by various privileges, so things like that. Actually, here's a section of what Todd Blanche had to say.
We complied with the Act, and there is no we did not protect President Trump. We didn't protect or not protect anybody. I mean, I think that there's a hunger or a thirst for information that I do not think will be satisfied by the review of these documents. And there's nothing I can do about that.
Okay, so now there's a lot here to get through. Like, for example, Epstein accomplice, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. Her arrest photos are in there. This includes pictures from her home in New Hampshire where she was picked up. How about this? An email between First Lady Melania Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell from 2002, where she seemingly writes, "Dear G, how are you? Nice story about J.E., Jeffrey Epstein, in New York Mag. You look great in the picture." Or how about the current U.S. Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, who is apparently a neighbor of Jeffrey Epstein in New York City, where he allegedly sent an email to Epstein's assistant in 2015 inviting Epstein to a Democratic fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. Remember, Clinton ran against Trump? Oh, and then there's this. Bill Gates looking to get STD medication. Bombshell allegation that President Trump assaulted a minor. We're going to put that one into context, though. A lot here, a lot I want to get into, and there's definitely more about President Trump. There's more about former President Bill Clinton, Elon Musk. I want to bring on attorney Richard Schoenstein, though, to discuss all this. Rich, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. There's a big points that we're going to get into, but just general thoughts on the release so far. After you have read 3 million pages, what are your main takeaways?
Yeah, well, I haven't read every line or watched every video or looked at every photo, and there's a lot here. But I think of it sort of the same way I think about litigation, where there are often very large document productions. And parties like to justify the way they're acting in litigation by saying, look at how many documents we produced. We produced so many documents. But often it's what's not produced. And my understanding here is there's a substantial amount of material that still hasn't been produced, and a substantial amount of material that is redacted. So we're going to
convergence of themes, historical controversy, modern political discourse, and a heightened awareness of risk in public spaces. The return of the files. The Epstein files have a way of resurfacing at moments of heightened attention, whether through court releases, investigative reports, or viral social media threads. The documents repeatedly re-enter the public conversation. This latest wave is driven less by brand new revelations and more by renewed visibility. Old records are being reshared, archived footage is being revisited. Names that have appeared before are once again circulating across platforms. In the digital age, repetition can feel like discovery. Each resurfaced document sparks fresh analysis, even when the underlying information has been available for years. A political layer emerges. At the same time, Political discourse has introduced a new layer to the conversation. The former president has recently spoken about rising safety concerns, focusing on issues such as public security, crime, and the
You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him or her present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Do you understand these rights?
Do I have to say yes?
It's a yes or no. Do you understand your rights?
Yes.
Okay. With these rights in mind, I'd like to talk to you about today.
Okay.
So around 2 o'clock this afternoon, you were reported flipping over a table. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So the Turning Point USA people had a table. They were distributing pieces of paper about an upcoming event, a comedy event. There was a racist coming to talk on campus.
Okay.
So I flipped their table over. I told them I thought that's what Jesus would do. And, I know I'll get in trouble for it, but I still think it's what Jesus would do.
So you think flipping over students, again, you're helping a student right now. You're here to help students get
I was
an
helping
education.
students when I flipped that table over, too.
How's flipping a table helping students?
Because those guys are trying to hurt students.
By handing out
Propaganda.
paper. You don't have to read the paper. You don't have to take the paper.
But lots of people do.
Okay, then that's them. That's not you. That's not your friends. That's not the people around you.
It is the people around me.
Okay, but it's other people that want to go to look at the stuff. You don't have to. If I invite you to watch the Super Bowl, are you going to watch it?
I don't know.
Do you even like sports?
I watch the Super Bowl with friends sometimes. Yeah, I do that.
Okay. Do you like the same music as me? If I invited you to a concert, okay, then you can say no.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Case in point.
But are you going to a concert where they're holding up their hand and throwing swastikas around and
Okay,
doing
they're
stuff
not
like
doing
that?
that. All right,
Yeah,
there.
Republicans group chat.
All right. You're going to be cited
Okay.
for
What does that mean
disorderly
exactly?
conduct and criminal damage to property.
Okay.
All right.
Which property?
The table.
Did I
Derek.
break it? I
Yes.
thought I just turned it over.
No, you broke it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you'll have a court date.
Okay.
All right. It'll be November 11th at the Law and Justice Center in Bloomington. All right.
Okay. So, sorry, do you say December or November 11th?
November.
November 11th. Okay.
No, November 5th.
What? Oh, sorry, I don't know where I got 11th. November 5th at the Law and Justice Center in Bloomington.
Yes. Those are your copies. At the bottom, it shows your court date and time and where the location is at.
You mean this here? Or wait?
Where it says
Oh, yeah,
Law and
the
Justice Center.
address of the Law and Justice Center.
Yes.
And the date. Yep. Okay. Okay.
You need to knock this off, Derek.
Do I keep both of these?
Yes.
Okay.
You're an employee here at ISU.
Mhm.
You should not be antagonizing your students here on campus. Does that make sense? If
That
it
does make
happens
sense.
again, you will be going to jail for disorderly conduct.
Okay.
Does that
officer.
make sense?
Okay, officer. Yeah, that makes sense. I understand.
This report will also be going to HR,
Yes, and the last one also probably is still working its way to HR, right?
probably.
Yeah, this wasn't Derek's first time investigators spoke with him. Just 2 days earlier, he was in front of detectives for those questionable posts made on social media.
Explain this one.
All right. Yeah. So this one is the one that I posted on.
Protection of citizens. While these statements are not directly tied to the Epstein case itself, the overlap in timing has drawn attention. Media outlets and commentators are analyzing both topics simultaneously, creating a narrative intersection. Critics argue that revisiting past associations alongside current safety messaging invites scrutiny about judgment and accountability. Supporters counter that discussions about public safety should stand independently from historical controversies. This tension reflects a broader pattern in modern politics, where separate issues often become intertwined through media framing and public perception. The role of public safety in political messaging. Public safety is one of the most powerful themes in political communication. It resonates across demographics and often shapes voter priorities. When leaders address concerns about crime, violence, or security, the message is designed to project control, awareness, and readiness to act. In this context, Any parallel controversy, especially
all my accounts that got a lot of attention, and I think this is probably like the representative sample of what the FBI wanted to talk to me for.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, straight up, I don't like Nazis. I don't want to kill anyone, and I don't think I have to kill anyone, and I'm not going to kill anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I told my brother one time that if ultimately in real life it came down to like me or someone else, like one of us dies and one of us has to live, I'll choose the other guy. I'll choose the other guy. Because I've already had my fun, you know. I had a great time growing up. I had a good time in college. If fascists are going to kill me, then so be it. But while I'm here, I'm not going to be quiet about the fact that fascists are evil. It's as simple as that.
So then this one also drew my attention.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry if you feel like you're like.
Well, I'm concerned, is what I am. Like, I'm reading stuff about people like threatening people with violence.
Well, what about the ICE officers who threaten people with violence?
I'm not with them. I'm not involved in that. So
I know, but like, you wouldn't try to stop them. You wouldn't try to stop them if they threatened people on campus with violence.
They're a federal agent doing their job. Their job
is to wear a mask and drive an unmarked vehicle and kidnap someone with no habeas corpus and no warrant.
Situation. All right, I'm here to talk about it right now. All right. Speaking of ICE.
Yeah, so, oh God. So this is part of what I was talking about to the FBI. Like, I told the FBI the way that I approach my social media is almost like a piece of performance art.
Mm-hmm.
And
so same way
this
is one.
Yeah. I mean, same vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is me threatening to pop the tires on an ICE van because the ICE van has people in the back and they're being taken to a concentration camp. So, are you talking about this topic? We already talked about this.
No, we already talked about the other ones.
Yeah.
I don't know why they posted them the way they did.
But yeah, this is a picture of me because I wanted to put, a recognizable. I didn't want to put my whole entire face, but I wanted to put something recognizable out there so that people would know that I wasn't hacked. Like, this is genuinely my account. That's part of what makes it feel more like effective, I think, at the deterrence, like the deterrence of Nazism, the deterrence of fascism.
Okay. And then last one, I guess this one, I don't really know why they put that one in there. I think we kind of already talked about that a little bit, so.
Yeah, I met the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, big if true. I did not actually meet the guy who shot Charlie Kirk.
Right, but the Charlie Kirk one at the top.
Well said. Cry harder. Every day hundreds of frail little kids in Palestine die. Charlie Kirk spoke out, not to end their suffering, but in favor of it. That was his free speech. My free speech is this. I, Derek S. Lopez, killed him. I killed Charlie Kirk. Yeah. So if he can say that...
One tied to past associations with a high-profile criminal case can influence how that message is received. Perception becomes critical. For some audiences, the renewed attention on the Epstein files raises questions about consistency. For others, it is viewed as unrelated noise amplified by political opponents. Media amplification and narrative framing. The modern media environment plays a central role in shaping how these overlapping stories are interpreted. News panels discuss the implications. Analysts draw connections between timelines. Social media platforms amplify reactions from both supporters and critics. In many cases, the coverage is less about new facts and more about interpretation. How should past associations be weighed against present-day policy statements? How much relevance do historical connections carry in current debates? These questions drive ongoing commentary. The persistence of the Epstein shadow. The reason the Epstein files continue to influence public discourse lies in the magnitude of the original scandal.
Don Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump were there. Attorney Alan Dershowitz was also there with attorney Bob Shapiro. We were taken in rooms, forced to give to Donald Trump, forced to allow, I think this says, penetration. I was 13 years old when Donald J. Trump raped me. Ghislaine Maxwell was also present. Okay, Rich, what do we make of this? I mean, because there does become a question of whether or not these are credible claims.
Yeah, and that's really difficult, Jesse. You know, on one hand, some of what's asserted here is consistent with other allegations we've heard over the years against the president and certainly against Jeffrey Epstein, right? This is consistent with things we've heard. But in these files, it's not, it's sort of sometimes secondhand or third-hand hearsay. These are allegations. These are not things that were proven in court. These are not things that were taken to court. And in fairness, it's hard to give them that much credibility without knowing more. Now, if you had these allegations, you might want to do an investigation. And I'm a little bit put back by the DOJ saying, you know, these are meritless or these are false or none of this is true. That seems to go too far the other direction. But I don't know that we have enough information here to say we've established additional criminal conduct.
It is interesting to note, if we're questioning the transparency of the DOJ, if you really believe they were going to hide information, they never would have released this. I mean, at the very least, it's embarrassing for the president. No? I mean, so does it not give you a little bit of hope that they are releasing everything that they can release?
I see the argument to that extent. I think the DOJ has a credibility problem right off the bat because the guy who's leading this was Trump's personal lawyer. So I don't know how much credibility you can have when you're spearheading an investigation and you've come directly from Donald Trump's legal team to the DOJ to do this. That's a credibility problem. And the DOJ over the past year has had tons of credibility problems. They have credibility problems right now based on what they've said about what's happening in Minneapolis. I mean, they're telling us things that obviously aren't true if you've watched videotape. So they have a big credibility problem. It's hard to take them at their word about any of this, frankly.
Let me ask you, and to be clear, law enforcement has never accused the president of any wrongdoing regarding Epstein. He's never been criminally charged or implicated. Let me ask you about Elon Musk. Elon Musk has come up in this. So Elon Musk comes up in this document dump in an email exchange from December 2013. Quote, "We'll be in the BVI," so the British Virgin Islands, / St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit? And then a response from JEE Vacation responds, "I will send heli for you," probably meaning like a helicopter for you. Quote, "Actually, I could fly back early on the 3rd. We will be in St. Bart's. When should we head to your island on the 2nd? Quote, "Did we need to organize Elon to your island on January 2nd? Now that's interesting because Musk had previously tweeted, "Epstein tried to get me to go to his island."
It exposed a network of influence that touched multiple sectors: finance, politics, academia, and beyond. Even indirect associations have long-lasting effects in such cases. For public figures, the shadow of that connection can resurface at any time, especially when documents are revisited or discussions trend online. The persistence of this shadow underscores how deeply the scandal affected public trust. Separating fact from perception. Legal experts emphasize an important distinction: association does not equal wrongdoing. Being mentioned in documents or appearing in historical records does not, by itself, establish involvement in criminal activity. However, public perception operates differently. It is shaped not only by facts but by narratives, timing, and repetition. When controversies and policy discussions overlap, audiences may interpret them through their existing beliefs. This dynamic makes it difficult to separate entirely unrelated topics once they are linked.
And I refused. Now it's unclear if Musk ever actually followed through with this trip, but it wasn't just the travel to the island that was discussed via email. There's one from September 2012 that reads, "What does JE think of going to Mar-a-Lago after Christmas instead of his island?" And the sender and recipient are both redacted, but it's kind of unclear whether if this was a response to this. But again, it does make me question when I read something like this, Rich, big name, flashy, but there were people who were always connected to Epstein and people who may have traveled on his jet or in his inner circle. Doesn't automatically equate to guilt. It doesn't automatically equate to them being involved in criminal activity or having knowledge of criminal activity. But I do wonder if it actually supports Elon Musk in a way.
I don't know. It is true. Jeffrey Epstein had social interactions with a whole lot of rich and powerful people, including Donald Trump, including Bill Clinton, and possibly including Elon Musk and many others. And that is something unfortunate that we've learned, that a person who had so many, did so many bad things, was able to establish these connections with the rich and powerful. But it doesn't mean that everybody he had a connection with engaged in criminal activity. I would be shocked if it meant that. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if people who did have contact with Jeffrey Epstein tried to downplay that in the wake of what we all know, even if the contact was innocent.
Let me ask you this. Based on Todd Blanche's statement that they can redact anything that's part of an ongoing investigation, does this mean that they're not, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, it's the president's own DOJ, but that they're not investigating Elon Musk, they're not investigating President Trump, and I'll talk about Bill Clinton in a minute, I'll talk about Bill Gates in a minute. Does that mean that they're not investigating them? Because otherwise they wouldn't be able to release this information, right?
I don't necessarily connect that. First of all, there's sometimes some of this stuff gets released and then pulled back. I think even today there have been some instances of things that were released and then pulled back. I don't have any reason to believe that the Department of Justice is investigating the president or Elon Musk for anything. I would be frankly surprised if they were, but I don't take that from what's been released. I just assume that from other facts.
Now, let's talk about former President Bill Clinton, who has come up quite a lot in the Jeffrey Epstein conversation. When Epstein sat for a deposition, this came out today, when Epstein sat for a deposition in the Virginia Giuffre lawsuit, this is an Epstein accuser. Remember, she filed a lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, a defamation lawsuit. This was unsealed, I believe, in 2024. In this deposition from 2016, he sits down and he would always invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination when he was asked about his connection or association or friendship with President Bill Clinton or the Clinton Foundation. For example, it was questions like, please describe all dinners you've ever had with Bill Clinton. And he would say, the fifth, please describe all dinners you and Maxwell have ever had with Bill Clinton. Fifth, please describe all dinners you, Maxwell, and Virginia have had with Bill Clinton. Fifth. Or how about this exchange? Isn't it true that at the time period 2000 to 2001, you were close friends with Bill Clinton? Fifth. And even to 2002, you remain close friends with Bill Clinton, right? Fifth. Bill Clinton flew on your jet a number of times in 2002, right? Fifth. In May of 2002, Bill Clinton was on your...
In public discourse. The broader debate. At its core, the current moment reflects a broader debate about accountability and leadership. How should past associations be evaluated in the context of present responsibilities? What level of transparency satisfies public concern? Can political messaging remain effective when historical controversies resurface? These questions extend beyond any single individual. They reflect ongoing tensions within democratic systems, where public trust must be continually earned and maintained. The influence of digital platforms. Social media continues to accelerate the conversation. Trending topics merge rapidly. Discussions about the Epstein files blend with debates about safety, policy, and leadership. This blending can create narratives that feel interconnected, even when the underlying issues are distinct. The speed of digital communication means that reactions often precede analysis. In such an environment, clarity becomes harder to maintain. Survivors and the core issue. Amid political debate and media framing, the original case remains rooted in the experiences of survivors who brought attention to years of abuse and exploitation. Their testimonies led to investigations, prosecutions, and global awareness. While current discussions focus on politics and perception, the foundation of the story remains one of justice and accountability. Recognizing that foundation is essential to understanding why the files continue to resonate. A story. The Epstein files have become more than a collection of legal documents. They represent a broader symbol of how power, influence, and secrecy can intersect. Each time they resurface, they reopen conversations that extend far beyond the original case. When combined with political messaging about safety and security, those conversations take on new urgency and complexity. The ongoing intersection. As the debate continues, the intersection between historical controversy and present-day policy will likely remain a focal point. For some, it raises questions about consistency and judgment. For others, it highlights the way narratives can be shaped by timing and media emphasis. What remains clear is that the Epstein files continue to influence public discourse long after the initial investigations concluded. And in an era where information never truly disappears, their impact is likely to persist, resurfacing whenever the moment, or the narrative, brings them back into view.